We go. Hi, everyone. Hey. So we're gonna get started with an announcement in Spanish first. Mm-hmm. Or to the microphone. Just good. Switch the, yeah.
Hola a todos, gracias por venir. Si requieren servicios de traducción, por favor, vayan al el fondo de la habitación que tenemos servicios de traducción para ustedes. Gracias por su asistencia.
Thank you. Okay, muchas gracias. So, hello, my name is Candace Perry. I am the director of the Office of Environmental Justice at New Jersey's Department of Environmental Protection. I want to thank all of you for coming tonight and spending a little bit of time with us, and to the YMCA for hosting us in person tonight. Really appreciate it. And thanks to everyone who was joining us online. So I am delighted to be here with the state's Environment Commissioner, Sean LaTourette. And we are gathered here to talk about environmental justice within Orange and East Orange. And so, unfortunately, there are some communities, because of their race, their income, and how well they speak English, that experience more environmental pollution than others. And those same communities also tend to have less environmental benefits. And what I mean by that is green space and trees that cool and clean the air, that soak up stormwater runoff, and that provide relief from the effects of extreme heat. The specific environmental injustices can look a little different depending on the region and the municipality or the neighborhood that you're in within the state. But one fact remains true regardless of where you are. And that is, no community deserves to bear more than their fair share of pollution. And every community deserves to have their voices to be heard. So this is why it is so important for government officials like us to be here with you tonight, to hear directly from you about your lived experiences, and so that we can be informed of your stories and use that feedback to shape and color the work that we do every day within our offices within Trenton. So over the last few years, we have been doing an environmental justice tour where we have been journeying all across the state. We have visited 18 counties to hear directly from overburdened communities about their experiences and their conditions within their communities. And we have been so grateful to hear from and to learn directly from those residents across the state. But tonight, we are making our way back to Essex County because it has been some time. And unfortunately, we know that some environmental injustices still remain. And so it's time for us to gather again, specifically in Orange and East Orange this time, to have this conversation directly with you two municipalities. So this is our opportunity to keep the conversation going and to hear from many of you whom we may not have heard before the last time we were here in Essex County. So we know that there are a number of environmental issues that persist in these two communities, issues like water quality and contaminants within the water, like PFAS and lead. We know that there are contaminated sites around the area due to the legacy of industry within this area, that there is a lack of adequate green space and tree canopy to beat the heat, that there's a lack of healthy foods, and so many more issues and topics that I'm sure all of you will tell us about tonight. And so I'll briefly run through the agenda, which is really simple. I'm going to pass it over to our commissioner to open us up with some additional remarks. And then the floor will be yours. We'll have a mic where you can stand up to ask your comment or to say your comment or ask your question. And we can get into some good dialogue about environmental issues within this area. So first, let me pass it over to Commissioner LaTourette to kick us off with some opening remarks.
I'm gonna position this away because I'm very loud. So first of all, my thanks to the YMCA for hosting us, to all the members of this community that have showed up here in person or those that are joining us remotely online. a thanks to Candace and her team in our Office of Environmental Justice for leading us on a tour throughout the state to meet people where they are and hear directly from those that we serve about their lived experience of their environment. It's incredibly important to us as we work every day to shape policy and try to develop solutions for environmental issues, the cleanliness of our air, our land, our water, the availability of environmental benefits and natural resource services and recreational opportunities, that we hear from folks and engage with folks in the places where they live, work, and learn, right? Because we could sit in our imposing concrete government buildings in Trenton and develop solutions that we believe, based on our experience and our understanding of the law, will help to improve quality of life in your communities. But there's no surrogate for being on the ground with people, hearing what their challenges are, and trying to identify the supports that state government can provide in order to help make those experiences better, right? To inform the development of policy and the application of our laws, whether that is the enforcement of laws to ensure that contaminated sites are cleaned up, or to make sure that the benefits that we have to bring to bear, from investments in water and environmental infrastructure to open space and recreational investment dollars, that we make sure that they are reaching all of the people in all of the communities that we serve. So as Candace said, the work tonight is pretty simple, right? To hear what you may have to share, and answer your questions as best we can. And I, sitting here right now, can't tell you that I'm going to have the best answer, or a good one, or a satisfying one to every question you may raise. But in these meetings with the people that we all serve, we make a promise that if we don't have an answer in this moment, we're going to find one, right? And we're going to come back to you and point you in the right direction, right? Issues that affect your experience of your environment, they're not always in the jurisdiction of the Department of Environmental Protection, but maybe there's a transportation issue and we can get our colleagues at the Department of Transportation to help. Or maybe there's a community affairs issue and we can get our colleagues at the Department of Community Affairs to help. And that's why we're here, right? To provide that resource and to answer what we can, and to take back the questions that we can answer and get you answers to them. So I thank you all for joining us, and I'll turn it back to Candace to get us started.
Okay, so just some quick housekeeping notes. I'll invite anyone who wants to come to the mic and just form a line. We'll take people one by one to say your comment or ask your question. If you're physically unable to approach the mic, just raise your hand. We can bring it to you. For those of you online, we are monitoring the online chat. So feel free to put a comment or the question in the chat, or raise your hand using the raise your hand icon at the bottom of your Zoom controls. That will alert us that you want to be in queue, and then we'll take you kind of one by one person in the room, one person online. If you are dialing by phone, you can dial *9. That'll be the way to raise your hand to indicate you want to be in queue. And so that's it. We will take the first person in the room.
Breaking the ice is always the hardest, right? But welcome anyone.
Please, yeah.
Come on.
Yes, go for it.
My name is Marty Mays. I'm Director of Public Works for the City of Orange. I've been with the City of Orange for 26 years. I have a lot of different experiences in terms of working with DEP. I want to say I met Commissioner LaTourette in Camden. The City of Orange received a $850,000 grant, leafing out grant, He was there for the ceremony, was very kind to me. I also heard Miss Perry speak, and I was very impressed with that. I want to start off with that. I really don't have much to complain about. I do want to, however, talk about the I do want to talk a little bit about the Leafing Out grant, and I guess it was 10 municipalities that received it. And I was happy because in Orange, we spend money on a lot of things, but often trees, tree trimming, tree planting, all of those things are secondary or are probably not getting done. A little bit about the grant. The grant is $50,000 for a municipal inventory to identify all the trees in our town, $400,000 for tree trimming and pruning, and $400,000 for tree planting. I want to say that tomorrow we take the first bids for our municipal inventory, which is the first step. I just want to say, and Commissioner LaTourette knows this, I told him this, I don't know if he remembers, DEP is such a vital part of what the city of Orange does. In terms of recreation is also one of the other things that you mentioned. And I guess this summer, we found out that 2 of our parks are contaminated, that's how I felt, oh my God, too. But I was able to apply for one grant, HDSRF grant, $500,000. We remediated one of our parks. The second park, we're preparing the application to do that. And I just want to tout that DEP and the Green Acres program has really made a difference in the parks in Orange. We have limited space. It's a small town anyway, but we have very limited space. And like I said, I've been there many years, and I use a combination of sources, county money, anything I could put together. But finally, after years and years of piecemealing a lot of projects together, and the parks are starting to look pretty good, actually. I'm very happy with that. And just going back to the tree thing, you talk about justice, man. I was just in shock to learn that the majority of the tree money was going to towns and people that didn't look like us. It set me back for a while because I manage a lot of grants. I started out working in Trenton, and you just think about a tree. A tree is so fundamental. And the fact that, Orange doesn't have that many, it's just bad. So I wanted to bring that out. Like I said, I don't have many complaints. I'm pleased with DEP. What they do for the town and what it allows me to do for the residents is great. Great responses. I'm going to use this Leafing Out grant. I'm going to plant as many trees as I can. I'm going to prune as many trees as I can. I'm going to put trees back on our main street. I'm going to put trees back in some of the parks. I always had a policy not to remove trees from the parks, but I'm going to add even more. And my last issue is we have an area in town, and that's really what brings me here, where there's a couple of regulations that are based on 1, 2, or 3 feet flood area. And we happen to be over by a couple of inches. And that's stopping us from being allowed to build some vital housing in our brownfield area. We have a BDA, which is a joint brownfield development area with West Orange and Orange. And we need to move forward in that area that I'm talking about. I have put together a bunch of federal grants, TAP grant, other grants. We're redoing our train station in this area, $4 million worth of work. And a block away, we can't build housing because of a simple regulation and a couple of inches. It just doesn't make sense. So that's my plug for tonight. but I have nothing but praise for the both of you. I thank you for what you do for communities like Orange and East Orange.
So a couple of things. First of all, Marty, you're a pillar of this community, right? And everybody that I've met in this region knows that. And I thank you for your commitment to your neighbors and to the city. Let me start from the bottom and work my way up. With respect to the concern for flooding regulations, what we should do is get the address that you're talking about and look at that site with you. I am hard pressed to imagine that the existence of a flooding regulation means you can't build something, because typically when a property is located in a flood zone, it doesn't mean you cannot construct housing or transit-oriented development or commercial development in that flood zone. It just means that what you build needs to be a little bit higher, right? So that the ground floor, the first floor living space, is not under what we call the base flood elevation, meaning that the first floor is higher than the flood waters will be when they come, right? And they come, we know we're a flood prone state, right? But the application of our, what we call the flood hazard area rules, I've never seen it stop a project I've never seen it stop a project. Rather, what it does is it has a developer will typically have to kind of rethink where they're setting that first floor. And that's pretty simple. It's a public safety concern, right? To make sure that folks aren't getting flooded out, and those flood levels are kind of increasing, right? We get a lot more rain than we used to. So we'll get that address, and I can set up a meeting for you with our state floodplain administrator, right? And our engineers at DEP that work on flood control, so that we can give you some assistance so that you can find the right pathway for that particular property. So that's the first thing that'll offer. We'll grab that address from you. We'll be in touch. On the parks that you found soil contamination, first of all, I'm sorry that you put all this work into restoring parks and you end up finding what I imagine. I've not read the file myself, but what I imagine is what we call legacy or historic contamination from issues long ago in many of our industrial centers, including here in Orange, right, and plenty of other communities in this industrial corridor, or former industrial corridor. We end up finding things from long ago, and it's important that we look for them, and that when we find them, we clean them up. And I'm so glad that you hooked into the Hazardous Discharge Site Remediation Fund. It's a really important program, and it's funded by an itty-bitty percentage of the corporation business tax that comes into state revenues are dedicated. And that same itty-bitty percentage funds Green Acres as well. So I'm glad that those two programs are coming together to help you. One additional thing that I'd point out, if you're looking to create more green open spaces, is in addition to the Green Acres program, we have a state acquisitions program. There's a constitutionally dedicated pot of funding that the DEP administers to acquire land and for conservation and recreation purposes. This is in addition to the Green Acres money that we make available to communities. And this constitutionally dedicated pot comes under what's called the Preserve New Jersey Act, which was amended in 2019. And the state is required by law to buy up open space itself. And typically throughout our history of administering this, which has been around since the 60s, we've bought open space in places where there's already a lot of open space. And one of our assistant commissioners, Elizabeth Dragon, has launched an urban parks acquisition program where we're partnering with municipalities to use money that the state can spend to acquire property and to do that in partnership with a municipality, because property in our urban core is much more expensive than wide swaths of open space in, say, Sussex or Warren counties. And if you wanted to buy a property to create more green space, it might cost quite a lot. And we can help in partnership with the municipality to acquire property. An example of what we're doing in Union City with Mayor Stack. So we're acquiring a large former industrial building that's going to be demolished and turned into a recreational space for the community with playing fields for kids. And we're using state dollars to acquire it, right? And so it's technically state property, but we're doing it under an agreement with the city where they manage it long term. And it's a great program for us to help communities like Orange. And so that's available to you too, in addition to Green Acres. So I'm happy to set that up. And you're right about urban canopy. Thank goodness that we've made good use of the urban and community forestry dollars that had come under the Inflation Reduction Act from President Biden several years ago. And in addition to Orange getting a Leaping Out grant, we're able to expand that into other overburdened and open space constrained communities that have a lot of extreme heat because there's not enough canopy cover, like Atlantic City and Camden and several others. So we're so glad that y'all are able to take advantage of that, and look forward to keeping it moving with you. And again, Marty, thank you so much.
Yeah, I also want to echo the thank you and just, man, what a difference it would make if we had Marty touring around with us to everywhere that we go, to be able to tell your testimony about how you applied for DEP grants and you got them and now you're spending them. Like that's such a great story to tell. We talk to so many communities where they find it difficult to work with the DEP or to obtain grants, and we're trying to get messages out there that there are resources, there are technical assistance. We have people that can walk you through applications, that it doesn't have to be as difficult as maybe it is perceived to be. So thanks for sharing that. It goes a long way to help us out.
How you doing? My name is Philip Reed. I'm a firefighter in the city of East Orange. I'm also a teacher at East Orange Community Charter, and I am just recently been hired as a legislative aide for the 34th District, Mike Venezio's office. My observation comes from my time as a firefighter. What I've been seeing recently is errant electricity underneath the ground. And what I'm going through my research is finding that due to poor soil remediation, there is metal underneath the ground. And if there's poor infrastructure and current is reaching the ground, that current can reach the metal that's underneath the ground and pop up on the surface and be potentially fatal or hurt someone. I have been to at least about 6 or 7 calls about this. The most notable one was actually the most recent one. A gentleman was cutting his lawn and he didn't have any shoes on, because that's the safest way you cut your lawn, right? But he didn't have any shoes on. So he felt the current in his feet as he was cutting his lawn. And like he would step in one spot and it'd be no current, and step in another spot and there's current. Due to the fact that this was maybe my 5th or 6th occurrence with errant electricity in the ground, I checked up on him on my off day. I actually saw him again cutting his lawn with shoes on this time. And it cost him about $40,000 to do soil remediation in his backyard. So I understand that if soil remediation is costing this amount, because he also had to, the contractor suggested that he insulate where he was cutting the ground out of, because we could not locate as the fire department, the responding unit. We could not locate. We turned all the power off in his house, and his lawn was still charged using the hot stick. So eventually, the city, I want to say the city engineer, an engineer from the city came out and basically told us that it can be coming from anywhere. The current can be because it's literally poor infrastructure, metal in the ground, picks up randomly, and then it presents itself at grade level. And you looking at me as if you've never heard this before. So
And literally, I think when I think I have heard everything,
yes,
right? I have never heard
yes.
a story like this one before.
We're literally taking our hot sticks and pointing them to the ground, and we're getting readings. And we cannot locate the source of the power.
Wow.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for your service in all the ways that you've served as a teacher, as a firefighter, and now with Mike Venezia. Good luck. No,
It's
please
expensive.
Tell
up
Mike.
here, guy. It's expensive. You gotta
Tell the assemblyman that I say hello and I thank him as well. He's been
Will do.
a great partner in the work
Yes.
that we do, from flood control to open space. I mean, he's terrific. So I'll tell you what jumps to mind, and I would love to get information on addresses that you found this, right? And for us to cross-check that with
Absolutely.
our partners at the Department of Community Affairs, because they have the master sort of fire marshals apparatus within state government. I'll tell you a few things that jump to mind. So there's a lot of property in our urban core that, over the years, going back decades, even more than 100 years, that was filled in to even out ground, to back when we used to look at wetlands as a bad thing and they're a good thing. Folks would try to fill them in, and they would use random fill from construction projects. And there's parts of New Jersey that have a lot of what in DEP speak we call historic fill, meaning it's not from an industrial discharge per se, but because of the way land patterns developed and what we use to, create land stability or land evenness back in the day,
Foundation.
when folks didn't test routinely soils to see if they were contaminated, we end up finding a lot of historic fill that can contain low levels of metals. And when I say metals, I don't mean chunks of metal. I mean molecules of metal attached to the soil itself, right? Molecules of lead, molecules of nickel or copper, or so on and so forth, right? And that is quite common in this part of the state. But typically I've not seen metals in soils at such a level that they were conductive, right? But now I'm starting to sound like an electrician, and that is a bad idea, right?
Another place, I'm going to cut you off. Another place that's also, because I've been doing like going down a rabbit hole. I'm a little obsessive. I apologize. Elizabeth Fire Department, they have far more counts of this errant electricity. So Elizabeth Fire Department, they'll have far more historical data and addresses for you guys.
That is really helpful to know, and something that we can absolutely follow up on, because sometimes what happens, we'll come to find superficial soils that are impacted with metals that can be dangerous in an area where they shouldn't be. It could be right now in Red Bank, New Jersey. There's an entire neighborhood where folks were finding high levels of lead in their soils, like in their gardens and stuff. And the DEP helps with that, right? Same thing we've seen that occur in schoolyards in Trenton or Atlantic City, for example, where we found this superficial lead from historic unknown sources, and we have an ability to be helpful So I'd love to try to map out what's happening.
Absolutely.
And Candace and the team and I will follow up.
The hotline flyer, if I'm on scene and this happens again, is the hotline a good place to call?
The hotline's a good place to call, or
Will someone respond or?
yes,
Okay.
always, every time.
Okay, great, great.
So that's a good place to report it, but you can also the email address for our Office of Environmental Justice is another good place to now that we know that this is happening, that we'll be obsessive too. Don't worry.
Okay. Right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate
Thank you
guys.
very much. Wow.
One online next, and then we'll go to the next person in the room. So Alicia Rodriguez, I see you have your hand up. You can feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hi, good evening. I'm not sure. Again, I saw this flyer and I came on because I'm interested in a few things going on in the community as far as like our water issue is concerned and the level of construction. So I'll try to formulate the question in a way that's a question, but I'm not sure if it'll make sense. So bear with me. Firstly, my question, I guess, is in regards to the water situation. I've been living here about 6 years. In the last 2 years, our water bill has gone up astronomically, and they have already signed off on increasing our rates for the next 5 years to do some kind of reparations to the water. I don't know what it is, but I guess my level of concern is that we can't drink this water. We can't cook with this water. We technically shouldn't be bathing with this water. And yet we're paying such a high water rate that continues to go up. And on top of that, I have to purchase water to drink and cook with. And my question is there any way or any programs or anything that could help, residents maybe not have to come out of pocket so much with these things? Because, I'm spending almost $200 a month on buying water just so I can cook and drink with. And on top of that, filters for my showers. And again, I'm paying almost every quarter. Now I went from like 100 something to almost $300 for water. And I can't even use the water technically. So that's a big concern for me as a resident. The second thing is I've been living here again.
Alicia, would it be
Yes.
okay if I responded to your first
Sure.
point? Just
Yes.
so that I don't forget, because what you're raising is so very important, right? Goodness, what would we do without access to clean water, right? And
Mhm.
everyone deserves access to clean water. I think what I may not understand is why do you think you can't use the water? Why has someone told you that you shouldn't?
Yes, Orange actually sent out a letter maybe 3 years ago, stating that we shouldn't be using the water. And if we do, to, boil it to a certain point before we're even using it. And we haven't received any contradicting or anything
Okay.
prior to that, after that.
I'm gonna make a guess here,
Mhm.
right? That I'm gonna tell you a little bit, and I hope you'll forgive my long-winded explanation, because water is actually really complicated. We experience and should experience it as kind of easy, right? You turn on the tap and clean water comes out, you flush the toilet and the dirty water goes away. Behind the scenes, it's super complicated. And the DEP is responsible for overseeing all the water systems in the state. We don't run them, right? But we make sure that they're following the safety rules that we set. And in the event, say that there's a water main break and there's a temporary loss in pressure. When there's a temporary loss in pressure in a water main, that means pathogens have an opportunity to enter the water main because everything's really tight and under pressure to keep the pathogens out. And so if and when that occurs, the law requires the water system to send you a notice saying that it happened. And sometimes that notice can come by mail after the incident has passed. That this need that you had in a short term to boil water is always a short-term thing. If you had a boil water advisory in the city of Orange, I would know about it right away. And because that happens whenever there's a boil water advisory in any water system in the entire state, I know. There is not a boil water advisory in Orange right now. Those are interim. They happen and they are resolved. And what perhaps I'm hearing is maybe a lack of really good communication from the water system, explaining the difference between what is an acute problem, like a water main break, where you might temporarily have to boil your water. That should go away within a day or two, or sometimes more if there's an extreme crisis, like we saw in Patterson over the summer. But the other type of notice you might get is when there's more of a chronic problem that's going to take some time to resolve. Like, for example, the fact that Orange found what are called per and polyfluoroalkyl, or PFAS substances in the water, right? These are the types of chemicals that were used to create Teflon pans and Scotchgard. And if your grandmother was anything like mine, she sprayed that Scotchgard all over the couch and all over you. Well, it turns out it wasn't good for us, right? And it's found its way into our water supplies, and our water systems now have to make upgrades because of that. And they have to give you notice about that. But it doesn't mean you can't use your water. And it doesn't mean there's some immediate danger. It means they have to fix it. And that means they have to invest in improving the water infrastructure. And that might mean that the rates go up a little bit. I will tell you that I caution everybody that I meet against routinely drinking bottled water, right? The state of New Jersey has the strongest water quality rules in the country. The chances are that anywhere in the state of New Jersey, the overwhelming likelihood is that anywhere in the state of New Jersey, you turn on the tap and it's better for you than what's in a bottle of water. And because plastics in thin bottles can leach out, right? In heat, in all different sorts of circumstances. If you have a filter in your fridge, that is great. If there's one attached to your tap, that's great too. But you don't need to do that and buy bottled water. You don't need to add to your household expense in that way. It's not going to make you safer.
Okay. I mean, it's probably more leaning towards the second. Like I said, I'm not really too educated on which one it was. I know it wasn't a water main break, so it's probably what you said about the PFAS and all that great stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like you also you do your homework. I'm going to tell you about a website called Drinking Water Watch. If you just Googled New Jersey Drinking Water Watch, that's a website that the DEP maintains, and you can see the water results from testing in your community every single day. You go on that website, you can see if there's a violation of some kind. It's updated constantly.
So just to make sure I'm understanding correctly, it is perfectly safe for me to cook with the tap water in Orange.
I have no reason to believe that it isn't.
Okay. I mean, that's good news to hear. Okay. So second part of my question, for the last 4 years, maybe 3.5, I'm going to say 3.5, let's be fair. It has been nonstop construction and all over my neighborhood, in the top of the street, bottom of the street, every corner. I think there's 6 more buildings that are going to go up. And I've asked council, have they done environmental study to figure out what the environmental impact of all this construction is going to be on the homeowners and people, that have to live with all the debris of all this construction going on. And they choose not to answer our questions. They choose not to help us find out, if there is or isn't. And I guess my biggest concern is there an environmental impact for us? Because the level of construction is so heavy. I mean, every day there's construction from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's debris all the time. There's trash. There's, residue from somebody, let's just say, cleaning up, what's it called? When you do the sheetrock or the foam that they put in the walls, there's always debris. And also, with all this construction and breaking ground, the level of rats is just crazy. When I tell you I've never seen rats in people's houses, like running across the yard, like it's nothing. It's a little scary. And but again, when I ask City Hall, you know, have you guys done an environmental study to figure out the impact to our health? You know, like we're breathing this in during the summertime. It's not like you're going around giving us masks. There's a lot of construction going on, a lot of debris, and no answers as to how this is going to impact us, especially in a neighborhood. Orange is filled with a lot of elderly people. And nobody has answered me. Nobody has given me clarity. And so that's another thing that I'm very concerned with. Again, I'm ignorant. I don't know these things. So that's another question of mine. I don't know if I'm really a question or really how to word it, but that is a concern with the level of construction. What are they doing or how does it impact us? You know?
Alicia, I'm meeting you first time right now over the phone, and I can tell that you are anything but ignorant. So give yourself a little credit and a little grace, please. So I unfortunately, sometimes, at least it's been my experience, that sometimes when folks in government don't feel like they have the best answer or the right answer or a clear answer, they might give you no answer. And at least in my opinion and experience, that's kind of worse, right? I think the answer to your question might be that there's not a perfect answer. There's not a type of environmental study that could be done that will characterize the particular environmental impact of multiple construction projects. But rather, one thing you might want to consider, one thing that construction projects do stir up, and I think your question got at this a bit, is types of dust and air pollution effectively from construction. And there are ways that you can monitor air quality in your community. The state monitors air quality around the state with permanent stationary air monitors. I think the closest one here is probably in Newark, probably in Newark. There's another in Elizabeth. But there are also little mobile air monitors that you can use. I see friends in the audience here from New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance. I would suggest contacting them because they know all about community air monitoring. And that's a way that you can identify. That's not a requirement that anyone do, right? It's not a requirement that the local government do or folks that are constructing projects or new developments or housing. It's not something that they have to do, but it is a great way that you could get some information about what the impacts are from dust particulates, because dust particulates can be bad for our lungs, right? And particularly for elderly people and children. So that's one point of information that I could suggest to you. And the other would be to consider talking to your local environment commission if you have one. Every municipality has the ability to establish what's called an environmental commission, right? It's an advisory group that gets educated by often the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions, and knows how to ask the folks that serve on these commissions. They learn how to ask the right questions and provide guidance to their planning boards about how to make these things less impactful, right? So that's another point of consideration. Candace, I don't know if you may have others. Alicia, thank you so much.
I have one more. Sorry.
Oh, no,
last one. I promise. No, I was writing it down. I wrote all those things down so that I could follow up. Thank you. I appreciate that information. The last thing is I heard you say that you guys actually were able to get funding to buy out an area for a certain place in order to get you more green space or whatever it was for the community. And in Orange right now, we have this, I don't want to say issue, but this redevelopment plan that pretty much, because it's a redevelopment plan, allows for these investors to come in and pretty much not have to abide by any guidelines and bypass zoning, bypass a lot of things that would pretty much maybe secure our green space or make them have to put a certain amount of trees up because it is part of the redevelopment plan, they say. So that's the reason that they can, you know, don't have to follow certain guidelines. So is there a way for us to find an area like that in Orange and maybe reach out to someone that can help us do the same thing in Orange to make another area? Like, does that make sense?
It does. It does. And a couple of things that I could point you to. So through our Green Acres program, we work with nonprofit organizations to provide funding for nonprofits to acquire land for open space conservation. So if there were a nonprofit in your community that was interested in working with the DEP to apply for acquisition funding to buy an area to make it open space, or to buy a parcel or a building that would ultimately be turned into open space, that's something that we do. And there's an open grant round right now that closes in February. And there's funding available for nonprofits, and it's been undersubscribed. Not enough
Nice.
nonprofits have been applying. So that's one way. And then the other way is through the local government itself, right? As I was explaining to Marty a little bit ago, those are two ways that we can provide financial support for that purpose. I don't think I've seen redevelopment plans that don't have some elements of green space. So sometimes it's a matter of matchmaking, and we're happy to help with that, with either a nonprofit or with the local government.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Is there any form of contact for in case in the future we ever had any additional questions that we can reach out to you?
Yes, of course. You can anyone can email environmentaljustice@dep.nj.gov. environmentaljustice@dep.nj.gov. And Alicia, just one more thought for you. I'm not sure if the city of Orange has a tree replacement ordinance. So this is a requirement. Okay, Marty's shaking his head no.
Yeah, we don't. I just said in general, that's not in their, it's not important to the people that are actually investing. That's why I'm saying we need a space. Thank you guys.
Well, yeah, just might be a point of advocacy for you. And as you continue to have conversations with the city and maybe the Environmental Commission. Yeah. Okay, Sharonda, go ahead.
Hey, y'all. My name is Sharonda Allen. I wear many hats in the environmental world. I'm the founder and executive director of Operation Grow Inc. And I'm also a commissioner for the Essex County Environmental Commission. Yeah, Sean, new thing, right? So last year, I have such a relationship with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection because Operation Grow hosted an Essex Hudson Greenway garden pop-up in the Essex Hudson Greenway, which is now designated a state park. And I've been doing this work because I know how important it is, and I work with the youth. I want to ask, is there anyone in here from the East Orange DPW or anything? City Council, City Hall? Nobody's here? I'm sorry? Well,
I mean, I don't think the DP, I think it's just Marty, your colleagues from East Orange.
no, he's from Orange,
Yeah.
right? And Orange has an environmental commission. East Orange, no, I'm sorry, it says it online though. Sorry. It says it. Well, you know what? I respect that they tried to put it in writing because it says chapter 15. I've been looking it up and researching, and I knew it was one of the surrounding cities that said they have it. But also South Orange has a combination of, and I suggested it for East Orange many times. And I did ask, was anyone here? Because I don't understand why this frontline overburdened community that is run by people who have my same skin color. And I commend Mr. Marty here because he's doing the work, he's making it happen. And when you say you see other communities getting these grants, getting this funding and doing the work, it is disturbing that me as an East Orange resident, we cannot get anything done. I've been requesting for a Sustainable Jersey Green Team to be reestablished in East Orange. I've been asking for an environmental commission in East Orange. Oh, the Shade Tree Commission is gone. Thank you, sir. And we have issues when we have major storms because we don't have, and I think they might have just hired one, but we did not have an arborist in the city to actually examine the trees that cause all this financial damage when there's a lot of wind. We've had sick trees. We've had very old trees. And we don't have anyone here from city council, anyone here representing. And it's so disturbing because it's not because other communities have oppressed or suppressed us. The oppression is coming from inside the house. And it's disturbing. And I've spoken about it. I've continued to do the work. I have to go everywhere else to do the work when we got a problem right here. So what can we do? Because I've been trying. Been talking to this gentleman, Robbie. When I've gone to city council, I had, Councilman Chris always said, "Oh, I love your ideas, but the administration wants to go another direction." For many years, I was in talks with someone from the DPW. Turned out to be really ugly, messy, and nasty. Nothing ever happened. And then I was demonized because I stood my ground as a human being. But what we have going on here is awful. We have gentrification coming to this city. And I wouldn't be surprised if others come in and try to make it happen. But until then, I think the Black folks here in East Orange deserve that respect of having the right environmental actions taking place in the city. I've done so much with the children here, but we have an administration that is fully negligent. And to me, it's criminal. To me, it's criminal because we need the activities of an environmental commission and a green team. I actually got an energy resolution passed, but nothing ever got to happen because folks were upset. Maybe because I'm a girl and I'm not in the inner circle. But what can we possibly do to get things moving? Because it's not just me.
Thank you for that, Sharonda. So before we go with a response, we actually have Elizabeth Collins with her hand raised online. She is from the Public Works Department within the City of East Orange. So maybe, Elizabeth, you have a response to Sharonda before we start. So go ahead.
I absolutely do.
Thank
I
you.
was unable to attend in person because I had a conflict of meeting that I had to attend as well. I would definitely like to connect with Sharonda to discuss this even further. I reached out to DEP and Marty as well regarding re-energizing the Shade Tree Division, looking into getting grants. And we're working with a grant consultant. So we're definitely moving in the direction that the city should be regarding shade tree, streetscape initiatives and things of that nature. Again, if possible, if Sharonda can reach out to me tomorrow so we can discuss further, that would be great.
Yes, ma'am. And what's your last name, Elizabeth?
Collins.
Elizabeth Collins. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And again, I'm so interested in pursuing the Leafing Out grant. I just need some guidance on exactly how to go about pursuing it, which is why I chimed in and raised my hand. That's all I have.
First, Elizabeth, this is Sean LaTourette. Thank you so much for raising your hand and jumping in and offering to connect with Sharonda. I would also be glad to have DEP's team in local government assistance, provide you with some support as well. So Candace, if you can take, if Elizabeth, if you'll leave your contact info in the chat, or maybe the team here already has it, we can help you to navigate both our grant programs, but in addition, provide you with some guidance and support on establishing an environmental commission, if that is of interest to you. It's not all that complicated, but no need to recreate the wheel if there's ways that we can be a support. On Leafing Out, unfortunately, the funding source that had been behind the Leafing Out grants is a funding source that has been that is no longer being pursued by the Trump administration. We received a major federal grant that enabled us to do that. So we don't have a continued source there for those specific grants, but we do have something else. It's called the Natural Climate Solutions Program. And there's open applications for that right now. And the Natural Climate Solutions program is from a state funding source. And I'll give you an example of one of the things that we funded under this program: 1,000 trees all around the city of Trenton, right? That a nonprofit organization, Conservation Foundation, ISLES, which is a community-based organization in the Trenton area, came together to do this program. And so that is something that would be available. It could affect the same outcomes as Leaving Out. So we could provide you with that link to those applications, and those applications are open now as well.
Okay, please, I send me all the information. I'm interested in doing it all. I know the first start to a tree program is to do the study. I also know that there's a grant for that, a small grant for that.
Yes, there is.
And with Alicia Cohen from our planning department, and I are pursuing currently. So, please, I beg of you, send me all the information.
Well, you needn't beg. We will inundate you nonetheless. And we'll also get you on our listserv from our local government assistance folks as well. They do a weekly newsletter.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just to note, what we typically do is send out a summary following this meeting with all the links and everything that we talked about. So you'll have that in a few weeks. And we just dropped the link in the chat, Elizabeth, to that grant that the commissioner just mentioned. So you'll have it immediately.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay. Yeah. Did you have something else, Sharon?
No, I was just gonna stay up here if you had a response so I can kind of back and forth, but I guess that might be an answer. And I just want to say that I grieve the loss of the opportunities for so much of the federal funding that could have occurred. And I have to talk about that because our community has lost so much because of a lot of the federal cuts and the damage that was done, because I'm also part of the Newark community food system because, I'm a farmer. And our community lost so much. There was so much trauma when people weren't able to get food. And the fact that we don't have any type of adopt-a-lot programs in this city. There's one official garden that we know of that didn't really live up to what it could have. And it's not about complaining. It's about, please help us. I don't know what kind of pressure you can put on folks. Frontline overburdened community that deserves so much more and so much better. So that's why I bring this up. So thank you for that. I pulled up the Climate Solutions Grant, and I have seen this too. But yes.
I'm getting emotional, and I'm with you.
I love you. Thank you. Yes.
And another thing I just want to say is that even if we don't have a immediate solution, like, oh, there's X, Y, and Z grant that's going to address the very thing that you said, the issues that we hear tonight are really helpful just as food for thought. If that's any constellation, we're up here taking notes, the staff are taking notes, things like the Adopt a Lot program, or, how do we provide technical assistance for tree ordinances? Like all these ideas and the concepts, they don't fall on deaf ears. So it might not materialize into anything tomorrow. It's on our list to think about for the future. So it is still helpful nonetheless. Thank you.
And just to build on what Candace is saying, in these moments when we hear the needs and concerns, that there may not be like an immediate, you've heard me say a couple of times, we've got a grant round that's opening or that's open now, right? That's not the case in every meeting. It's December and we get them open and they close in the early part of the new year. But the next time that we're creating the grant program, we've heard all these different needs, right? And so how do we make the grant program expansive enough so that it will meet needs that we've heard in across the state as we've done these meetings?
The mic so everyone can hear.
My name's AJ. I live on Valley Street in Orange. I live right next to the water treatment plant that you have there. It's a couple of issues going on with that. It's very noisy. It's on
Just
Baker Street.
say the name of the water. Is it drinking water or a sewer treatment plant?
It's right across from Metcalf Park. Okay. And it's very noisy. It gives off extremely bad odor. Okay. And you've taken our parking spots also, because it used to be alternate parking and now it's only one side you can park on. All right. So I'm hoping you can address that. It's on Meeker, right across the street from Metcalf Park. All right. And then you also have a corner spot over there on Beach Street and Valley that you're building something. Nobody actually came around except for a quick 10-second, hey, is anybody home? Knock, and then no follow-up. I don't know what they're building and what it's going to entail for how it's going to affect me and my family. Okay. I'm sure you know about the big project over there or whatever it is. It's a big dirt parking lot right now.
I do not,
Okay.
but so we're from the State Department of Environmental Protection.
Okay.
So when you say I think you might mean the city itself. Do
This,
you mean the city water treatment plant or the development of some kind?
I don't know who owns it. They've sold it to other people. So I don't know what that entails, but I would appreciate if you guys could take a look into it and see what's going on. And I just want to know, why is my water bill going up? I know it's probably not you guys, but this is some food for thought, because it sounds really silly for my water bill to be going up and I can't drink it. Right? So, and
We're talking about this earlier this evening, and so maybe if you got here a little later, one of your neighbors, Alicia, had called in and raised a similar concern, and I was explaining that I'm not aware of any restriction on drinking water that is distributed by the city, and so I think maybe there might be some point of confusion about that. And one of the suggestions that I had made is there's an online dashboard that provides up-to-date information about drinking water quality for every drinking water in the system in the state. And it's called Drinking Water Watch. And you could Google, right, New Jersey Drinking Water Watch, and you'll be able to put in your town, right? And you'll be able to see the most recent results. And if there's any notice, meaning, is there a boil water advisory notice and you shouldn't be drinking your water? What I imagine has happened is that there was a notice at some time and folks may have thought in reaction to that, I can't drink this water no matter what. It's unlikely that that's what that meant. But one of the things that I think we're hearing here tonight that I think is really important is for us to reach out to the water system and make sure that there's a good line of communication, that folks know exactly what's going on and what some of the concerns are. We talked about one of those concerns is PFAS, forever chemical contamination, that requires more treatment to be installed, and that's very expensive. And so, unfortunately, that because there is not a problem of the city's making, right? But because contamination has happened to our water supplies, now our water systems need to put on more treatment to make sure it's safe for us. And one of the things we're doing at the state level is investing in the water systems, right? We're providing millions of dollars to the city so that they can make their improvements more economically feasible. But the likelihood is that they need both some state help and they need to adjust their water rates a bit as well.
So I'm just interpolating and extrapolating for the fact that they put out notices regarding the water, and they were handing out filters. Okay, in my community, in my neighborhood. All right. So I assume the water wasn't drinkable if they're handing out filters. Whether it was temporary or permanent, I don't know.
We can
Okay,
find that out
find
for you.
And I'll,
for sure.
I'll look onto that site. And the other thing is, my property taxes go up every year. And so I would like to hope that the water bill should remain the same if my property taxes are going up. And it is the administration of the city's fault because they are raising property taxes while they're creating, and I don't want to, this isn't the forum for it, while they're creating such a huge burden because the mayor and his crew are giving tax abatements to 15 new buildings that are bringing in another 2,000 families. So it's all connected, and this isn't the place and forum for it. And thank you for showing up here and listening to us.
We will get you some answers to those questions. Unfortunately, or thankfully for me, I don't have to engage in the setting of local tax rates.
You're right.
But with respect to your water quality, I can make sure to get you an answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
We're going to take the next person online. Valora Howell, I see you have your hand up. Yeah. Valora, you might be on mute. We can't hear you. Still can't hear you, Valora. So we'll take the next person. in the room.
Hello,
Oh, there we go.
hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Sorry, I wasn't able to unmute my microphone. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I have really some large concerns about the environment. There was a company called the U.S. Radium Corporation, and that there's a park called College Park, I think, that now occupies that space. And I think you're probably familiar with the Radon girls and anyway, in the 1940s, the U.S. Radium Corporation used to make watches, and they used radon to create the glow-in-the-dark watches. So my concern is, because I also was a part of an international organization called the Japanese African American Society, and I had the pleasure to visit Hiroshima. And not only did we visit various places in Japan, we met with the Diet. And this was in 1989 when I went on this trip. And one of the things that we learned, because Hiroshima was, the atomic bomb was used in Japan, we learned that radon and radiation takes at least 100 years to dissipate. So the U.S. Radium Corporation building was demolished around 1979. And so my question is, the DEP was involved with the cleanup. That's what we were told. Are you familiar with this with this company, and this site? And how safe is that park? Because who would build a park over a former radon site? My son passed away from cancer. And so I kind of wonder if my town has a problem with cancer. And another question I would like to know, if your organization could give radon kits to homeowners, because when I purchased my house almost 40 years ago, it wasn't required to do a radon test, because we were looking at different homes in Montclair and Irvington, and they required that in order to purchase a house, that you have to do a radon test. So this is a very famous site. In fact, the EPA was developed as a result of this U.S. Radium Corporation. It's in Wikipedia, it's in encyclopedias. So I just wondered if
I am familiar with this with the site from a very limited perspective. So the U.S. Radium site is is what's called the National Superfund site, right? The U.S. EPA runs what's called the Superfund program, and it's for identifying sites that are severely contaminated and that require higher level resources than any one state may have. And so the radium site was put on the Superfund list decades ago. And it's the cleanup of the radium site is effectively complete. It's in what's called a long-term monitoring posture. And what happens when a site has been cleaned up to completion and it's being monitored, the US EPA does a review every several years. The next review for this site, at least I'm looking right here on the EPA information, should be forthcoming this January. The last long-term review of that site identified it as still being, its protectiveness is being maintained. But if we could get your information, we can give you the contact information for the US EPA, so you can ask more of your questions to them. It's what we call a federal-led site. So they're the ones that are in control of monitoring that site, not the state. But we can get you some contact information for that if you want to drop your information in the chat here.
Yes, but I understand, because with the new administration, they aren't as, they seem to be less reluctant to be compliant with various environmental laws. And so
And that's why there's us, and we don't let them not be compliant in the state of New Jersey. It is a federally led site, but if they want to do anything different, they have to ask for our permission. And we would never give it if it were not protective of human health and the environment. So,
well, I have another question too, in regard to the water. There was an article which I disseminated because I have an organization or a group chat that we have called the Highland Avenue Society. And I post a lot of information to the group, but there have been articles about New Jersey having arsenic in the water. Now, I can also speak to my own environment that I have to use when I don't drink the water in Orange. And the toilet water is naturally brown. So there's like a brown ring around my toilet. I've taken pictures. I have to use a blue Clorox tablet to prevent the brown ring from staining my toilet. So if the water is brown, how safe could that be to drink?
I think what we can do is get you some information about the water quality results in Orange. I don't want to speak to why your
But
specific.
it's also my neighbor across the street because she advised me to get the Clorox. So she's having the same problem. You know, we all live on Mountain View Avenue. I live next door to Alicia, so it isn't.
And you receive city water, or do you have a private well on your property? I would think city water.
Yeah, it's city water. We know this house is over 100 years old. So
Yeah.
I'm not the only person experiencing this on my street. And the last question is, we also have a substation that is near Highland Avenue train station. And I've done a lot of research on substations with the American Cancer Society, that it isn't safe, and especially if it's in a residential area. How safe are we for to be protected against gaining autoimmune diseases? Because that particular substation is right across the street from businesses and homeowners. So that is definitely a red flag. So there are really huge environmental issues. You know, the reason why I became so environmental conscious is because I lost a 24-year-old son to colon cancer, which is an old man's disease. And they never could trace how he became ill. So, you know, I'm kind of like the poster girl for cancer, to be quite honest with you.
I am so sorry for that, for that loss. It's just horrific. Again, if you put your information in the chat, we can share a bunch of resources with you that might be helpful. You know, links to updated reports on the Superfund site and its maintenance, and links that will help you identify water sampling results so that you can be empowered with that information. And I thank you for sharing with us today.
Yeah, well, I learned a lot when I was in Japan because I actually lived with a family that was victimized by the atomic bomb, and they made us live with them, and so I saw the after effects of cancer, and you know, I never thought that my own family would be affected by something like that. But other people are talking about brown rings, so it is, you know, I don't know. I'm not drinking the water. I don't think it's safe. And plus, there are articles in a newspaper. I'm a journalist also. My daughter, my oldest daughter is a journalist. She writes for the New York Times. She won a Pulitzer Prize for the New York Times. So, you know, I don't imagine things. We really, you know, are practical people. And I have a lot of business experience. So it's an emotional thing for me because no one wants to lose a child. And you don't, and the doctors never at St. Barnabas, they never understood how he became ill, how he developed cancer. At 24, that meant at 16 years old, it started. So I just wonder, you know, if it's the environment.
Ms. Valora, I'm so sorry to hear about your loss.
But other people in the
sorry.
community have developed cancer, so it's not just me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I want to say that if you're interested in our walking you through, we can get on a Zoom call, let's say, and we can walk you through Drinking Water Watch. This is an open invitation for anyone who's listening. Please feel free to email us at environmentaljustice@dep.nj.gov. We would love to organize just a quick call where we orient people to that tool, Drinking Water Watch, and let people know how to use it. So we're offering that to you. Ms. Valora, also there is the Office of Minority and Multicultural Health at the Department of Health. I would love to get you connected to the Department of Health. Maybe they can offer some additional answers to your questions about, you know, health rates and health risks within the community. So
Yeah.
we can connect with you to get you connected to the Department of Health.
I appreciate that. I just don't want anyone else to suffer.
Of course not.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take the next person in the room.
Hi. Excuse me. I'm always taken back by these stories because they keep coming. They keep coming. My name is Chloe Campbell. I live in Orange, New Jersey. Work with a lot of my neighbors. We make up a community-based organization called Friends of Metcalf Park. We formed during COVID, and we formed with just the idea of being stewards of our urban park. Our intention was to go in and do neighborhood cleanups. I moved to Orange from Brooklyn, New York, and moved to a community where people were distant. They did not talk to each other. They had this beautiful open space that really wasn't being used. It was underutilized. It was one basketball court that was operative out of 4 half courts. There was a tennis court that was just unused. They were using it as a dog park. I can go on and on and on. We worked with Marty and DPW. We did apply for a Green Acres grant, and we did see renovation occur at the beginning of this year, as he stated. In that, we learned about historic fill, did not know what that was, had people in the neighborhood, historic what, right? We had to learn, we had to contact NJEJA and kind of go through a whole terminology thing about what it was. You beautifully explained it earlier. That helped. Then we had neighbors a little further down from us in the valley who are experiencing some development over there, and they found historic fill there as well. So there was sort of this, okay, extension of knowledge, right? As a result of what we were able to learn, we was able to sort of, share that. And we're residents, right? Like, hold on to that for a minute. Okay, that was the beginning of this year. We then went to learn with Lead Free New Jersey about lead pipe remediation. Found out that the city of Orange doesn't have, or maybe we were told they didn't have, an active directory of what pipes have been changed out and so on and so forth. So that led to a lot of what we're hearing tonight, right? Confusion, lack of communication, lack of knowledge, education, yada, 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 about what the status of lead pipe remediation throughout Orange is. We also learned recently about PFAS treatment, and we had to go outside of our community. We had to bring in organizations like We Act out of Harlem, New York, and Environmental Protection Network to come in our community. And we had a conference where they taught us everything related about PFAS. It was amazing. We had students, one of them is here from STEM school, learning. We had about 6 of them that were there that were held captive. And we went through everything between the science, the law, the policies, as well as who should be responsible for creating a PFAS treatment center. And it shouldn't be on the backs of residents of Orange, New Jersey. Let's get that straight, because we are in the valley that was known for industrialism. Where are these companies? Okay, let me fast forward. I'm giving you a year in a glimpse of year. It's the end of the year. So we're doing our end of the year review, right? We also have the East Branch of the Rahway River that runs behind Metcalf Park. It's fenced in. It's often polluted in. When it rains and we're getting a lot of water, it rises. We are learning that it also is a source of drinking water for the Rahway, the city of Rahway that's further down on this branch. We also heard it also contributes to Millburn, the flooding that they receive in Millburn, right? When we walk where we're at, if we walk maybe about 3 or 4 blocks, we're in South Orange. If you see the same branch of this river in South Orange and also in Maplewood, it's beautiful. Why does our part of this East Branch of the Rahway River look the way that it does? We want answers to that, right? What can we do to reimagine and re-envision this? How can it serve as curriculum for our kids to understand our waterways, right? Why do we lack? Where's the equity in Orange as it shows in other parts of New Jersey? We are an overburdened community, right? We should be looking at these things with the equity lens. We're not. Okay, so that's the East Branch of the Rahway River. Talked about the lead. So the last thing we found ourselves doing, and this was midway in the year, roadway safety on Freeway Drive and 280 East and West, right? And so there's a lot with that. We did some streetscape projects in Orange and East Orange, right? And there was money on the table from the federal government that was chopped to do like a cap over 280 so it can make it safe for people to cross over there. We've seen multiple accidents, and I ride my bike across Freeway Drive and into East Orange often. And the one small thing that could be done is very minor for visibility is just landscaping. There's like trees and branches all over these fences that people have to like duck out just to see if it's safe for them to just across the street. Like that's so simple. And then we go to, our municipality, that's not their roadway. It's a state roadway. Okay, so then you have to go through all this bureaucracy just to get something so minor done. And I don't understand it. I'm not Jersey bred and born, okay, but I'm here now, right? I need to understand where does my municipality end their ownership of things, because they will, that's a whole nother conversation as I heard Sharonda bring up about, I'm glad Marty is here and I love Marty, but me and him get into it. He knows, he'll tell you, he ducks me. He does. I have every number on my phone for him and will call him all times a day. And I hold a job. I work for the city of New York. I work for government, but I will call him because I need things done. I am persistent. You want to hear from me. Okay. And if he doesn't hear from me, his staff hears from me. He doesn't want to hear from me half of the time. But then there is a limit to what he can do. And then you have, okay, it's the county. I don't know what that means, okay? And then there's the state. Okay, that makes more sense to me, right? I feel like the state is complete oversight, right? So I'll go straight to the state. I know people at Green Acres. I call them directly. Because I'm cutting through bureaucracy. I work for I'm cutting through it. And they don't understand. And I get it. I'm not coming soft. I'm not coming nice. I'm giving you what I see on a day-to-day basis. And it's not pretty. It's not. So I thank you. Yes, I thank you for my trees. We need more of them. You just pulled up trees from a complex. We need more. In a place that floods, we need more. We need tree pits. We need to talk about how thank you. We need rain gardens. We need to talk about how if you see the park flood and we just replaced Valley Street, I have neighbors that talk about 30 years they wait for this roadway to get replaced, right? Finally was replaced. But according to state materials, you're supposed to think about replacing those pipes at the same time. That wasn't done. It wasn't done. So we waited for something to happen for so long, and we didn't take advantage of giving us some clean pipes so that we can, handle the issue of lead pipes. What are we doing? These are the questions that go through my mind. These are my frustrations, right? These are my neighbors' frustrations. And then when you hear miseducation and lack of communication and so on and so forth, it does go to the sense that yes, we're in an overburdened community, and I know that my municipality, lacks the resources that they need to do some of the more effective things that you might see in other municipalities. But then on your regs, you do have where you should have a commission, environmental commission. And I asked them, where's it at? Let's stand it up. You have residents who want to participate, who want to help. We're already doing it. We're already doing the work. So establish us so we can continue to do the work. We can educate our youth and have them do the work. Sustainability, right? But it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. We have an open space commission. We pay money out of our taxes for this open space fund. We don't know how much is collected. We don't have a commission to talk about how to use it, how to acquire new open space, how to take care of our existing. Orange has beautiful parks. We have a lot of open space. They just don't look the way they should. But yet we have gentrification, we have new development, we're starting to see community benefits. All these things should be working together so that we're not an overburdened community. But it's not happening. It's not happening. And we need your help to push down, to help, to collaborate, to coordinate, to send this message, right? So that we're not fighting each other. It don't make sense. It doesn't. I'll stop there. Thank you. And wait, last but not least, because I know we have a change of administration, and I hope that you guys survive that, right? Because I really appreciate that you coming into the community to talk to us or whatever. But please do not let this end up shelved somewhere. Find a way that if you don't survive, please find a way that this communication and the work that you do transitions to the people that follow behind you.
I'm just meeting you for the first time tonight. I am here for all of it. And I thank you. And you're right, we are in the midst of a gubernatorial transition. But regardless of whether I am the commissioner or not on January 21st, our Office of Environmental Justice doesn't go away. And I have a feeling you and me are a little alike because I ain't never really going away. So our Office of Environmental Justice will be here. Their job is to do this work. That is the job of a civil servant. It sounds like you are one, and you know that our civil servants are a force and they are here for the people all the time, right? So you should expect the next administration to show up just like we have. And if they don't, you better tell them how it ought to be. Right? Because government does its best work, not when it shows up in a community and tells them how their community should be. Government does its best work when it shows up and says, hey, this is your community. How do you want it to be? And how can we help you? How can we help you get there? So one of the ways that I think we can help, and I'll make the same offer to y'all in Orange as East Orange. We're happy to help provide some capacity to get an environmental commission stood up. Look, an environmental commission is an advisory body, right? It's not a decisional body, but it does help bring people together who are interested in sowing that spirit of community and service, right? And when you have a green team, these are folks that they don't want to sit there in the room and be the people who, they just want to think the big thoughts and tell other people how they should do their jobs. No, folks on a green team, they rolling up their sleeves, right? They're getting out there. They're doing plantings. They're building rain gardens. They're trying to figure out where grants are to be a help, right? And I think that's a good thing for every single community. So, we can make sure that the mayors of both Orange and East Orange know that we're here to help get a environmental commission stood up. If you were to go back, I'm a lawyer, which I apologize for by background, right? So I always like to go back and read laws. The law that created an environmental commission is to create a link between the DEP and the folks on the ground in their municipal governments. Because, you came to Jersey, we're happy to have you as a Jersey girl now. Though you work in New York, we're going to claim you, right? And you're getting in the home rule of it all of New Jersey and our 564 towns and our 21 counties and our state government. We all do a slightly different thing. And sometimes we do it together. Sometimes we do it despite each other. Sometimes we do it to spite each other, which is unfortunate, right? But at least this environmental commission, they serve a link between the DEP and the folks on the ground in City Hall, right? to make sure that flow of information, look, people in City Hall busy. Marty, he busy, right? But we can all do better when we do it together, right? So I'll make sure that the mayors get a message from me that we're happy to be helpful, right? And getting things set up. You're welcome. And the Friends of the Park are, if you're organized as a 501c3, you're entitled to apply for funding on your own in addition to the municipality. The best parks utilize this model where the city government, parks project's big and expensive, right? City government comes in for the max funding it can get. And the Parks Foundation or the Friends Group or the nonprofit, they come in too. And the city can apply for a portion of the funding to do the project. And then the nonprofit organization can apply for funding to do another portion of the project so that you get even more done, right? And it's set up that way purposefully, right? So I'd suggest to explore that too. You're welcome.
Yeah, a couple of reflections from me. I just want to say first, I'm so impressed, Quelly, by you and your neighbors, all of your local advocates who are not settling for no or a lack of an answer to be an answer, and not settling for the experience that you experience locally. Not settling for like a connection to the answer of like why is our portion of the river like this as compared to the portion of the same river in other towns, like not settling for, well, that's just the way that it is. Like you all are pushing the envelope to demand answers, to demand solutions, even if you don't have all of them right now. And so that level of organization and passion and being mobilized together to go and seek answers from different places. You said EPN, you said NJEJA, you said the city, so all those different stakeholders is so important. And I think that is a really valuable model to be shared with other overburdened communities, that you don't have to settle, that you can go and get answers. And it might take some time, but I'm grateful for the work that you're doing in your community. It sounds like your neighbors are lucky to have you. And so you've given me so much food for thought on how OEJ can be continuing to help. Like we're out and about listening, but like what is the next step we take beyond that? And so my staff and I are in our end of the year reflections and next year brainstorming season as well. So we'll be thinking about some of this. Just really thank you. Last thought is on your point about roadway safety. So I want to get you connected if you're not already. There's a whole advocacy network of complete street advocates and roadway safety advocates and Vision Zero advocates. So you're nodding. So maybe you know those folks. Okay, good. Okay, good. One thing I want to let you know, maybe you don't know, there is a Target Zero Commission that has been stood up. Okay, you're nodding. So for the people in the room who aren't familiar, there is I think 13 or 12 or 13 agency Target Zero Commission, where the goal is to reduce traffic fatalities and serious injuries towards zero by 2040. And so all of the agencies get together and we have a draft, which is really nice, a draft Target Zero action plan that should be finalized pretty soon. I can make sure you get the link to that. But it has all of these different efforts that each agency has committed to taking over the next few years to reach that Target Zero goal. There's also a high injury network where I'm not sure if I-280 in this area that you mentioned is on there, but we can check. There's a high injury network, I want to say of about 150 most dangerous intersections across the state. And with that list, we can start to prioritize complete street projects, landscaping, visibility, traffic safety, traffic calming projects. All of that is to be in the works next year as we start to implement. So definitely stay connected in that engagement process. We would love to have you as an advocate, pushing us to do more and more.
I just want to add one more thought on your question about, you know, the South Branch of the Rawway, right? The South Branch of the Rawway? Okay. So getting my directions all turned around. You're asked a question about, well, why does the water quality look a certain way? Or maybe why are there floatables in this part of the river, but not that part of the river? One of the questions that I get a lot, including from lawmakers, right? Our legislators, you know, whose job is it to keep the rivers clean, right? Isn't it your job, DEP? Isn't it the state's job? It's one of those issues where it's no one's job. And there is no stream maintenance, stream cleaning, debris removal type program in the state of New Jersey, which is odd. We have one of the most progressive environmental, legal and regulatory landscapes in the country, right? But we don't have a program for that. And it often comes up relative to flooding. Folks will be like, oh, there's too much debris in the river, or oh, the reason the flooding is happening is because the river needs to be dredged. That's almost never the answer, right? It's overland flow and not enough stormwater control. But keeping those waterways clean and free of debris often is the work of nonprofit organizations, green teams, and environmental commissions, and folks that donate their time. There is no such program. Should there be one is a good question. And I get this, I've gotten this every year in my budget committee hearings down in Trenton. Some legislator has raised this. And I think it's a good point. I'm sharing that with you because you all are all engaged. You are here. One of your legislative members' staff was here earlier. Assemblyman Venezia has always been a good partner. Assemblyman Morales, right? There's Senator Timberlake, right? Having them hear you and hear this message, this is something we need that we don't actually have, right? And if this was a imperative and there were a program like Green Acres, but for stream cleaning, we would help you get those resources and help you get it done too, right? But that just doesn't exist. And there's a good question about, well, shouldn't it? And how do we create it?
I just want to do a time check for us. I think that we may have to leave the room at 8:30. My team is checking to see if we can get some additional time. So I want to take two more people with the time that we have left. We can take the person in the room and then Tanisha Woods, I want to cue you up to go next.
Good evening. Hi. I'm Tamisha Woods. That's my twin online there. I may look familiar to some, well, not only because of that, but also I grew up in Orange, East Orange, and Newark, so probably look familiar to some people, maybe from SWEA or Newark Green Team, right? So what I want to bring up today, because there was many great points raised, but seems like one of the problems that we have is we advocate for these great ordinances and everything, right? Mm-hmm. And then developers come in and, you know, they apply for variances. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, you know, the ordinances aren't really enforcing much because, you know, a lot of times they get approved. So our communities really need more education. Maybe you could spread this to your friends down at DCA, more education surrounding development and zoning laws to help, you know, better advocate. I meant to say thank you so much for the work that y'all do. So proud of New Jersey for being a state that does continue to try to fund initiatives, environmental initiatives, despite what's going on the federal level, because I mean, and also, I just don't want my communities to feel discouraged because, I mean, these organizations have been around, I think someone said 1970. I mean, so prior to that, we've been advocating. So we just got to keep the momentum no matter what, no matter who's in office. So that I love to see more bike lanes. Speaking of road safety, and also it would be great if we had electric shuttles free like in New York City, and buses. And also when we're taking on these environmental initiatives, it's very important that the green jobs are going to our community members. Is how we help to fight the gentrification. So paid training to actual members of the community. I love to see that. I have a lot more, but I don't want to take up all the time here. So, and more transparency and like the lead pipe initiative, for example, so we can know what's going on. Someone might have mentioned that, and if there's a way, DEP, that you can have more testing of our water, our air, and our soil, would be great. Like, for example, that gas station that contaminated, I think it's what's called Gas Mart, that caused the contamination, soil contamination and everything. They weren't properly taking care of the gas tanks. So, and I think what New Jersey does, every 3 years or so, checks, and it's the responsibility of the gas station owners to do it monthly. But, we can't trust them to do that. So if could be more testing, I think would really benefit New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you for, number one, reminding us of all the places that you've served and that we've met. So thank you for that, and for getting engaged in all these different forums. It's helpful, and raising your voice is such a good example for others, and I appreciate it very much. Certainly, yeah. And Candace and I are giving each other reverb. A couple of thoughts. One of the things that we've been trying to do to deliver greater transparency and accountability is to create tools that are available through DEP for tracking some of these things. So there is a mapping tool available on our website called PLEM, which is the Potential Lead Exposure Mapping Tool, PLEM, PLEM. And it includes information about lead paint risk, and we've recently added and have more to add relative to lead pipe identification and remediation. So we're getting that all in one place so that the lead paint stuff and the lead pipe stuff, you can just switch between two tabs on a map and see the progress in your community, how many known lead pipes have been identified, have been removed, how much unknown pipes are there, unknown material that have yet to be fully investigated. All of that is going to be available on PLEM, but the beginnings of it are there and then we also have a tool that we just put out, and Candace and team can include this in our notes too, which is called the Contaminated Sites Explorer, where you can go and put in an address and you can see, you can set a radius of 5 miles, 10 miles, whatever it may be, and you can see the sites that may have had a spill of a hazardous substance. Maybe it's a manufacturing facility or an old one. It's not even there anymore. Maybe it's a gasoline station where they had a leaking tank, and you can see where those sites are and what the status of their cleanup is with a click of a few buttons. And you can get the name of the person who is managing that cleanup, and you can call them and ask them questions, right? So those are two really important tools for transparency, accountability, and just cutting right to the chase and having someone to ask the questions to. Welcome.
Okay, Tanisha, go ahead.
Yes, hello.
Yes.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for your time. I just want to piggyback off of what my twin sister was saying. First of all, as she was saying, we've been active and involved in environmental justice um, missions, and we even involve our own children and involve the youth, including our own children, in these environmental missions. And it's really important to our family because, as my sister said, we grew up in these communities. And so, and my own children, they both have respiratory illnesses. And so I fear for their health all the time, constantly. So it motivates me and inspires me to get involved in these sort of missions. And so I one of my concerns, like my sister touched on, is the testing and the monitoring done on air quality. For example, I wanted to know if there is air quality monitoring being done in the area of Orange and East Orange. I know that there was a mission that the organization SWIA, led by Kim Gaddy, did, where we collected data on the air quality and were able to successfully keep Amazon airport hub from being built in that community. So we know that data like this can really help the communities to protect themselves and to drive other initiatives. So I really wanted to know if there's anything like that being done in the area of Orange and East Orange.
I appreciate that question very much. And earlier this evening we were talking about the different types of air quality monitoring, where there are stationary monitors that are run by the government, and then there are also small, more mobile air monitors that individual people can use. They're not as technically rigorous, right? But they're a great starting point for figuring out some initial conditions and working on understanding more. The state itself operates 29 air monitors throughout the state that keep track of air quality across a broad what we call air shed, but it is not specific to your exact location at an exact moment in time, meaning an exact location where you may be standing. But you can go to the DEP website and see those 29 monitors and see what they are recording in real time, right? So I'll give you the website for that. It's dep.nj.gov/AIR air, MON, dep.nj.gov/AIRMON.
Just to add to that question, how can data like this be utilized by you guys and other organizations in the best way to drive these initiatives?
So we utilize data from those air monitors every day. We use them to understand existing conditions. We use them in emergency response when there are adverse events that may cause a spike in poor air quality. We use them to promote public awareness of things like poor air quality days, particularly in the summer when ground level ozone is high. We use them in evaluating whether new or expanded types of industrial operations can be permitted. We use it in lots of different ways that are all focused on protecting our health and our environment.
Okay, so thank you. I'm told that we have a little bit of additional time, which is good. So I'm going to take two more folks that I believe are outstanding online. First is Tiffany Robinson. If you want to come off mute and say your question aloud, please feel free, but I can also read your question in the chat.
Happy to do that, Candace. It's quick.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, my question, and thank you both for being here tonight. Really great conversation. So my question was we talked about green space at the beginning of the meeting, advancing that. So just wondering what ways DEP might be able to partner with both of our cities to support not only safe and connected access to the Greenway as it comes online, but really just understanding that it does tie into environmental justice. So that access to clean air, that access to the ability to be mobile in our communities, as someone alluded to, biking and things like that. So just wondering in what ways we might actually be able to kind of up the ante with our communities to help support that and tie into the Greenway. Thank you.
Oh, this is a great question. First of all, thank you for being interested in the Greenway and attentive to it. I think, well, first of all, it's gonna be some time, right? I think we all want to set expectations accordingly. It's all going to be some time before we have complete build out across the full span of where the Greenway runs, right? It goes from Jersey City just on the opposite side of the western side of the Hackensack, right? Over the Hackensack through Kearney, over the Passaic into Newark, and then through multiple communities and ends, the very end of it is in Montclair. There isn't much actual Greenway in Montclair. I think as we fully plan this out, right, within the next several weeks, we'll have a bit of a visioning document about what the path forward looks like for the Greenway. Not a full design, but how do we get there, right? What are some of the considerations and other points of connectivity, right, within communities is a very important consideration. And as we move that process forward, I think it's really important to think about the other opportunities for open space acquisition that we talked about throughout the evening and how we can create, whether it's other linear parks or even just a well understood trails kind of network that interconnects between existing parks, say here in Orange, and what are the pathways you might travel by bike, by foot to ultimately connect into the Greenway. One of the real benefits of our structure of environmental governance in New Jersey is that we also manage the trails program alongside DOT, and we're putting together a trails plan, right, that will help build connectivity in these ways. We also put together recently another point of planning and open space opportunity, like a plan that evaluates open space opportunities. It's called Outside Together. I encourage you to Google that and look at it, because it similarly tries to build these connections, and it's a gateway to future funding, both from the state government and, when they're doing it appropriately, again, the federal government.
Is there going to be a public participation element to the trails plan that you mentioned? How can people get involved in that?
There has been for some time. There's been surveys conducted relative to trails and access to trails. We can, if we have the contact information for the
Tiffany.
Thank you. Tiffany, who just asked the question. We can get the Mackenzie's contact information. Mackenzie is running the trails plan, and include her in that.
Yeah.
For the
No
next
worries. Yeah,
point.
no
of public
worries, guys. I'm on track for that. I'm more concerned with our cities, making sure that they're invested in making those connections between transportation and this green space and trails. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great point too, and that type of planfulness and a forethought, and comes into our ranking criteria for Green Acres funds and other types of funds as well. Like, we want to see connectivity, and we provide greater, like, you get a better score in your grant application when you're interconnecting different types of projects.
Next up is Levon Boykins. We can't hear you yet, Levon. Oh, okay. Oh, your mic isn't working. Okay. Yeah, I can read it. So, my name is Levon Boykins. I work with the Hub in the city of Orange. I am an advocate for lead and currently do research on lead concerns and preventions in the city of Orange. With Orange having many historical homes and buildings, the community is more prone to lead issues within the pipes. As I do my research, I want to know, is there any resources, live data, or websites for lead within the city of Orange? Also, is there any types of water filter grants or programs that can assist with providing the community with water filters? And there might be a part two. Okay, no, that was it.
So I think we should point back again to the PLEM mapping tool that we had mentioned just a few minutes ago. It's the potential lead exposure mapping tool that looks at both the lead paint risk and lead pipe risk. The overwhelming source of lead exposure, to be very clear, is from exposure to lead paint and dust from lead paint. It is a greater risk of harm to our children and our families than lead in drinking water has ever been. That's not to say that lead in drinking water is not also a priority. It is. But the reason that I'm mentioning it is when it comes to the age of housing stock, you really have got to look at both. Because depending on the age of a home, you will be able to identify the greater where the greater risk lies. Because after a certain date, it's in the 80s, and I can't remember the exact date, but it's on the PLEM tool and information that we stopped using lead in solder in pipes in indoor plumbing, right? So depending on the age of your housing stock, and you can look at this in PLEM, it looks at every address, right? And it makes judgments. It's a model, right? It doesn't have your personal information. It makes judgments about the likelihood of lead exposure based on age of housing stock and types of materials. But it's a great starting point to analyze where in your community, because often clusters of homes are a certain similar age, right? And that's a great place to start. Our Department of Community Affairs provides the funding sources that helps with lead paint remediation. And then the DEP provides the funding sources to help local municipally owned water utilities to reduce the cost of lead pipe replacement on both the city side and the homeowner side. With respect to water filtration, I'm not aware of a state government program that provides for in-home water filters. Some water systems offer that. It's not a requirement of any kind, but some do.
Okay, that takes us through all of the comments and questions that we have online in the chat. I don't see anyone else in the room but I'll do a last call. Anyone in the room or online? Yes, please.
Microphone, then everyone else can hear you online too.
Thank you so much for this great meeting. My question is, I need you to tell.
Can you tell us your name?
My name is Jerry Dumas. Jerry Dumas. I live in East Orange, but I used to live in Orange. Recently, I learned about the Radium Girl in Orange. Do you know anything about that? And when I think you're gonna do a report next year, 2026 in January. I used to live in Bradford, like for 5 years in my family. And then I never knew this kind of situation was back there. So is there any concern or anything before the report you're gonna do next year in January? Thank you so much.
I appreciate the question very much. And I think this is, similar to one of our callers, I think it was Valora, who mentioned the U.S. Radium Superfund site, which is a Superfund site where the clean, which is in Orange, that has been, the cleanup has been completed for several years. And every few years, every 3 to 5 years, there is a reevaluation to ensure that the mechanisms put in place to protect against any further harm from that site are well controlled. That the next report, when I look online, it comes from the federal government, not the state government, is due out in January of 2026. And we're going to put the links to, if you've signed up and we have your contact information, we're going to put the links of where to find all of that in our meeting notes so that you have it. You're welcome.
Is there anyone else?
Okay, go for it.
By bringing directly to overburdened communities, so that
I'll repeat it.
More, state of New Jersey to be able to do more testing and inspection and everything. That would be great because it will provide more jobs to the state in communities like ours. The DEP definitely, I'm sure, needs more staff because the public sector in New Jersey in general is understaffed. So that would be, great for all parties involved.
I'm going to take that as an opportunity for a shameless plug and tell anyone here or listening that DEP is always or almost always hiring. And folks who are interested in public health and environmental protection, there are lots of different ways that we do that at DEP. There are careers in water quality and air quality and recreation and parks and open space. And encourage folks to go to dep.nj.gov/jobs. And there are listings constantly. And there are several right now. And there'll be several more to come because we're a large organization and folks come and they go and there's always opportunities that need filling. What's that? Well, for our environmental services trainee positions, we start a lot of folks in at a trainee level and we do the training ourselves, right? And provide for the fulfilling of credentials as folks grow in their careers, right? And so that's a great way to if you're interested in an environmental career to begin pursuing one. But there's also a really good point to be made about sowing greater growth of green jobs in communities. And we've run a great green jobs program in years past. SWEA has been a participant in that. And I think it's something to let our legislators know, right? There's specific legislative appropriations that let us do things like that. to let your legislators know that that is something that you're interested in, right? We're a government agency. We're an executive branch agency. Our job is to implement the laws and spend the money that the legislature gives to us. And we will always do the job they give us, and we will always spend all of the money they appropriate.
Okay, I'm going to take this time to wrap us up now. And first, just say, I really enjoyed being here with you all tonight. Thank you so, so much for your ideas, your questions, telling your stories, even if they were difficult to hear, and I'm sure very difficult to share. It is so important that we ground our work with the lived experiences of communities who are affected by the environmental conditions that we try to solve every day. But for whom are we solving them for? And this context, this grounding is just so meaningful. We're very appreciative. And let this not be the first time that we have this dialogue. We may not be back in Orange tomorrow, but you have our email address, you have our websites, we can get connected, we can do some additional trainings, we can have additional conversations. So let's continue. Sean?
So this is our last public engagement session of the year as we head into the holidays. And I'm really glad that it was here and with you all. This has been a really dynamic group that we've got to spend some time with this evening. And I think we've made some new friends, which I appreciate. Right. The only way we can do really great, really impactful work is when we do it together. Right. And when we keep at it, when we're not quiet just because it's inconvenient for some folks to have to answer our questions sometimes, right? I get a lot of questions every day from all over the place, right? I can't get to them all every day, right? Maybe just like Marty here, right? Because there's no shortage of important and good work to be done, right? But sitting down and engaging with the folks we serve, it helps us to do it better, right? And do it better the next time after that and the next time after that. It's rare that the decisions we make and the programs we run always meet every single need that is identified out there. But every time that we're in a space like this, we find a new way to improve upon something we were doing, or to extend the reach of what we're doing even further. And I'm grateful for that. And I tend to close these sessions with the same reminder every time. And I'm going to do it again here, even though many of you have heard it before. I want to remind you what the government owes you, right? And it's really important because our environment, your air, your land, your water, right? Our open spaces, our fish, our wildlife, their habitats, right? Our natural spaces, they do not belong to the government, right? Our natural resources are owned under our state constitution by the people of New Jersey, right? It's just the job of people who sit in these chairs to take good care of them for you, right? And you should expect that, right? It is not an imposition upon your government to ask them to do their job and to improve upon your environment, because it is what you are owed. It is what you deserve. And it is what the jobs of the folks at the DEP, right? And all across our government, it's their jobs to be there for you and improve the quality of life in the places that you live, work, and learn, right? It's our jobs. And I'm proud to do that job. Candace, I'm proud to do it with you. I want to thank our Office of Environmental Justice staff, right? We'll do these jobs a little better tomorrow and a little better the day after that, right? So thank you for helping us in doing that work.
I was just going to say, and a little better because we've spoken with you. So good night, and we'll talk again soon.